There are movies that entertain you and movies that stay with you. Pretty Woman stays with you. Released in 1990, directed by Gary Marshall, starring Richard Gere and a then unknown Julia Roberts, this film was never supposed to be a fairy tale. The original script was dark and gritty. But somewhere between the page and the screen everything changed, and what came out became one of the most rewatched romantic films Hollywood has ever produced. Now meet Edward Lewis. On paper this man has everything: a penthouse at the Beverly Wilshire, a nine-figure net worth, a name that makes boardrooms go silent. Edward is a corporate raider. He finds struggling companies, dismantles them, sells the parts, and moves on. No sentiment. No attachment. Just profit. He is exceptional at this. And he is completely, utterly alone. His girlfriend just walked out. He's lost in the Hollywood hills behind the wheel of a borrowed car he can barely control, and for a man who dominates every room he enters, tonight he has no idea where he's going. That detail is not an accident. It is the whole film in a single image. Now meet Vivian Ward. And the film asks one thing of you here: pay attention, and do not judge. Vivian works Hollywood Boulevard. She's 23, she splits a small apartment with her friend Kit, and she is sharp in the specific way that only people who have had to be sharp to survive ever are. She reads people in seconds. She negotiates without hesitation. She carries warmth she gives freely and walls she guards fiercely. The world has looked at Vivian her entire life and decided what she is based entirely on what it sees. But circumstance is not character. The film understands this from frame one. It just needs Edward Lewis to catch up. Edward pulls over. He needs directions to Beverly Hills. Vivian gives them and then charges him $20 for the information because she is exactly who she is, and she does not give things away for free. He laughs. She does not flinch. He offers her more money to ride along and show him the way. She negotiates the rate up before she even opens the car door. And in that one small exchange the entire architecture of this film is revealed. He has the money. She has the power. That is the real engine underneath Pretty Woman. It looks like a story about a wealthy man lifting a woman out of her circumstances. It is actually the story of a woman who never once stops knowing exactly what she is worth, and a man slowly learning to see a value he cannot put a number on. They arrive at the Beverly Wilshire and watch Vivian's face as they pull up. She has walked past this building her whole life. She has never walked through its doors. Edward invites her to stay the entire week: business companion, public dinners, appearances, $3,000. Vivian stands in that marble lobby, calculates the offer in about 4 seconds, and says yes. She asks for the money up front. He agrees. She keeps it in her own hands for the entire film. That is not a small detail. That is a woman telling you in one quiet, decisive move exactly who she is and how she operates. She is never a victim in this story. Not for a single frame. Edward is not a man who does things halfway. The morning after Vivian arrives, he takes her to breakfast in the hotel dining room. And this small, ordinary scene quietly reveals everything about where both of them are starting from. Vivian does not know which fork to use. She does not know the etiquette, the ritual, the performance of wealth that Edward has lived inside his entire life. And instead of being embarrassed, she watches, she learns, she adapts in real time, without apology. The hotel manager, Barney Thompson, takes a quiet interest in her. He becomes an unexpected ally. He coaches her, guides her, treats her with a dignity that most of the world has never extended to her. And Vivian receives it not with shock but with grace. Because she always knew she was capable of this world. She just never had anyone open the door. The next morning Edward hands her his credit card and sends her to Rodeo Drive. And this is where the film shows its teeth for the first time. Vivian walks into one of those boutiques, politely, genuinely, and the saleswomen look at her. They look at what she's wearing, they make their assessment in under 3 seconds, and they shut her out without a single word of explanation. Cold, dismissive, final. She leaves empty-handed and humiliated. Garry Marshall holds on that moment just long enough for it to settle into your chest. He wants you to feel the weight of it, because what is coming next only lands the way it should if you felt that weight first. Edward finds out and he does not send an assistant. He walks her back to Rodeo Drive himself, arranges a private stylist, and within hours Vivian is standing in the kind of dress that makes lobbies go quiet. Then she does something the audience has been waiting for since the moment she walked out of that store humiliated. She goes back. She walks in carrying bags from every competitor on the block, sets them down on the counter, looks the saleswoman directly in the eye, and says with complete calm and a smile that costs her nothing, "Big mistake, big, huge, I have to go shopping now." That line has been quoted for 35 years and it will be quoted for 35 more. Because it is not just a comeback. It is a woman reclaiming her dignity in the most precise, unhurried, devastating way imaginable. Then something quieter happens and it matters more than any of the scenes before it. Edward takes Vivian to the opera, Verdi's La Traviata, and she does not pretend to understand it. She just feels it. Completely and openly, tears forming by the second act. And Edward, who has attended 100 performances without feeling a single thing, watches this woman absorb every note like it was written for her, and something in him breaks open. This is the real turn in the film. Not the clothes, not the hotel suite, not Rodeo Drive. This moment. Two people sitting in the dark and one of them reminding the other what it feels like to actually be alive. But real life does not pause for good moments. Edward's lawyer, calculating, entitled, and threatened by what he sees happening, makes a dangerous move on Vivian when Edward is not in the room. Edward finds out and fires him immediately. No hesitation, no negotiation. But the incident cracks something open between them two. Because it forces both of them to look directly at the reality of what this arrangement is and what it is not. Vivian is falling. She knows it and she is scared, because she knows exactly how stories like this usually end for women like her. And Edward is falling too, in the slow, terrified way that men who have armored themselves their whole lives fall, not all at once, but in pieces, each one harder to deny than the last. The week ends. Edward offers Vivian an arrangement beyond the original deal: an apartment, money, ongoing security. And Vivian turns it down. Quietly, without anger, without a scene. Because she knows the difference between being provided for and being chosen. She wants to be chosen. Not her company, not her usefulness, not a version of her that fits neatly into his world. Horror. She packs her bag, she says goodbye, she leaves. And Edward Lewis, a man who has never failed to get what he wanted through money, leverage, or control, sits in the back of his limousine and realizes that the one thing he actually wants is the one thing he cannot acquire. So he gets out of the car. Edward starts canceling meetings. He extends his stay in Los Angeles with no clear business reason. His partner notices. His lawyer notices. Edward himself barely admits it. But the truth is sitting right there in plain sight. He has not felt this present, this awake, this genuinely interested in another person in longer than he can remember. And Vivian, for her part, is doing something she promised herself she would never do. She is letting someone in. Not the hotel, not the clothes, not the lifestyle, him. The actual man underneath all of it. Flawed, guarded, brilliant, and for the first time in this film, uncertain. He climbs the fire escape of her apartment building, flowers in hand, visibly terrified of heights, and he calls up to her window. She appears. He asks her what happens after the prince climbs the tower to rescue the princess. She smiles and tells him she rescues him right back. And she climbs down to meet him. That is Pretty Woman. Not a perfect film, not a realistic one, but an honest one. It is about two people who were both lost in completely different ways and who, against every odd and every social barrier between them, chose to see each other clearly when the rest of the world never bothered to look. If this brought back that feeling of watching it for the first time or the fifth, drop a like, subscribe, and stay with us. There is so much more to revisit.